Darien, Illinois. Today, a thriving community in southwest DuPage County, with 9,000 homes and 24,000 residents whose average age is 40. The median family income is $75,000, and the average home value, $215,000. It's a community where great schools, convenient shopping, many parks, and proximity to expressways make it a nice place to live. But it wasn't always that way. And looking back on the 40th anniversary of Darien, let's hear how it began in the words of those who were there. Sam Kelly, Elmer Cowney, Gene Coling, Lil Brown, and Miriam Hawken.
When I first saw this area in 1947, it was nothing but farmlands. My husband bought our lot for $1,000. His relatives all thought he was nuts for buying his property out here because they called it the boonies. This was an unincorporated area and with no planned developments, and we had gravel roads, deep ditches, and it was a country atmosphere. If we saw 10 cars a day on Plainfield Road, it was a traffic jam.
As Miriam points out, in the early 1950s, Darien was no more than a few farms. But as the decade progressed, so did the sleepy farming community.
I think the community really started developing to some great extent probably in the mid-50s. And it became apparent that we were going to have another school.
There were no stores when we came out here. We had to go to Westmont to get milk.
As the housing boom of the 1960s developed, residents were trying to shape the area for the future.
Somebody asked me, we just had a meeting here last week. We're having another one. You want to come to the meeting? Well, next thing I knew, I was president of the civic organization. So I figured, well, I got to meet somebody here. I met Sam. Then one meeting about, I don't know when Gene moved here in 57 or 8, he was in the meeting and he opened up his mouth and I said, well, how about sitting on the board? And so that's how the three of us got together.
By 1969, the idea to incorporate gained solid ground, but it was not the first attempt.
We had many attempts before that in Marion Hills, and even there was an attempt or two in Brookhaven to become a village.
When the question about incorporation came up, I was very interested in it because I did not particularly want to be a part of Westmont. I was more than happy to be a separate entity.
The reasons for incorporation were many, and that was police protection, better roads and streets, and to get money back on sales tax revenues to benefit our own community.
While incorporating was a popular concept, it did present some obstacles.
If you wanted to be a village, you had to get the permission of any village within 1.5 miles of your boundaries, which we were sure we were not going to get. But if we had a population of over 7,500, we could incorporate as a city, which we did.
Now the organizers moved swiftly to gain the approval of several independent communities that they hoped would become the newly united city.
The communities being considered were Marion Hills, Clairfield, Hinsbrook, Brookhaven, and Nottingham.
The boundaries of the new city comprised the outlines of the 4 homeowners associations that incorporated.
The boundaries of the city were basically 83 on the east, Frontage Road on the south, Manning on the west, and 67 on the north.
The key individuals involved were Del Hyinger from Hinsbrook, Sam Kelly from Marion Hills, Charlie Swartz from Brookhaven, Bob Bankswell from Clairfield, and then we hopped over to Ray Clowder from Nottingham. These were the key people because the way we set our organization up was that the leaders were going to be the 5 presidents of the homeowners groups.
Now with leaders emerging and a plan to incorporate as a city rather than a village, things seem to be coming together. It was time to let the people decide.
The residents voted in a straw poll, and this is how we determined what we were going to do. And the straw poll turned out that we had three choices. We had incorporation, annexation, and status quo, meaning don't do anything. And incorporation won out in the straw poll.
After the straw poll, we held an election, which was favorable by 42 votes, and I was quoted the paper saying it was a landslide.
The next step to form the city and let it begin was the election of a mayor, city clerk, city treasurer, and the alderman. That's the people who were elected.
I remember that election when they had that big long ballot, and they had bullet voting. You could either vote for 1, 2, or 3, and depending if you voted for 1, 2, or 3, that's how many counts they got. And my ballot box was full already by noon, and the silly county told me, just take a yardstick and push them in. So we took the yardstick and pushed them in, and when it got time to open the ballots at the end of the night, it took us hours to open them without tearing them.
Now that this new community has its leaders, they had to choose a name. That was not an easy task, but in the end, it came down to one man's idea.
The name of Darien came about in that we, the members of the committee, submitted names, and we submitted quite a few of them, and then we voted on them. I happened to be the one that threw the name Darien into the hat, and we voted on it, and that's how it came about.
I might add that I wrote to Darien, Connecticut, asking if they'd be a sister city of us, and they said, no way.
What I liked was that it was a place that I used to hitchhike through, and that's in Darien, Connecticut. And it was a unique name to this area, and we were looking for that.
The first city hall was located in an old Lace school, which, you know, at one time was the original school for this area. And we had to share it. The city hall was shared with the city police department.
It needed painting, and the policemen got together and had a bunch of surplus paint, and they painted the inside blue. And that's how Darien became, that's our color, blue.
Now that Darien was incorporated and had its own government in place, it developed its own personality, and the harmonious feeling that came through was signified with a slogan, which became Darien's motto.
The expression, "it's a nice place to live," I believe, came from Irv Sorobi, who at the time was part of the Darien Chamber of Commerce, as I recall. That's the way I remember it.
In spite of what Sam says, I think the slogan, "a nice place to live," came from Al Stramalia, one of our former mayors, who really was a big booster for Darien.
Now, 40 years later, what started out as a dream in the eyes of a few people has become a reality.
I think Darien has become a better place to live. We still have a long way to go that we can go, but we have done tremendous strides in the years that we've been here.
We got a good park district, we got a library, which is fantastic. A lot of communities don't even have that, and we're only 40 years old, you know, so we're going. I think the city keeps on going up.
We were hoping it would become a good community to live in, and with the proper zoning laws. We didn't have any other big ideas other than that to build a good city, but that's good enough.
And in the words of Lil Brown, one of the best things about Darien today is
You don't have to go to Westmont to get milk anymore.